Om Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. So we were discussing this one shloka, and it was so long. Samoham sarvabhuteshu namedveshyosti na priyaha ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. And then it continues. Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadhureva samantavyah samyak vyavasito hisach. So, but if apichet suduracharo, the one who is the worst in his behavior or did something very criminal, how Shebenda translates, very evil conduct, yeah? If even a man of a very evil conduct turns to me, bhajate mam, ananya bhak, and nobody else, with soul and entire love, he must be regarded as a saint, sadhureva samantavyah, for his settled will of endeavor in him is a right and complete will. For the settled will of endeavor in him is a right and complete will. It's interesting how Shobinda avoided that participle. Samyak vyavasitach, because he's decided perfectly. Yeah, that's what the text says literally. So even if one is totally criminal, and you remember the story of Valmiki, yes? He was the robber and the criminal, actually. He was robbing people in the woods. And then somebody suggested to him to say, some rishi, to sit and to speak Mara. Mara means death. So he was speaking Rama, 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 and Rama came up. So, and then, so he became the greatest of the saints. Yeah. So from the criminal to the saint with the focus on the divinity. I know it's a bit dubious question whether it is doable. I think it is doable because there is nobody here totally sinful. There are no sins. Yeah? There are people who are overloaded with energies or hijacked by other forces and unaware of what they are doing, kind of submitted themselves to those influence of those forces, and they can't get out of it easily. Yes, because there is a drive in nature, a groove in which they are already there. And as Sri Aurobindo somewhere in the aphorism says that to hate the sinner is the greatest sin. Yeah, and there is a reason for it, because the sinner is actually not well. He's ill, sick. He needs a cure. He doesn't need hate. Hate will not help him. And that's quite interesting because in Europe there is a shift. I'm coming from Norway. In Norway, all the prisons are like, like hotels or hostels or something kind of. You have your nice room with the internet, television, you have your hot shower, you have a good food, healthy food with chocolate and so on. Breivik, who killed so many people, was complaining that he doesn't like milk chocolate. He wants brown chocolate, more chocolate, less milk in it. So that was his complaint. It happens only in Norway. And interestingly, that daytime they are allowed to go out to the city, to go to cafes, and so they have on the leg they have this the bracelet, which is kind of tracing them wherever they go. But they're allowed to go to walk in the parks, to be, and then in the evening they must come back to their hostel to take hot shower, very nice dinner, and go to sleep if they want to. This is the prison in Norway. And I was arguing with someone there, and they said, you see, they noticed that if you put them into the prison with criminals, even good people become criminals at the end. So this is the culture, criminal culture. That's what in Russia is happening. Russia is very much, once you are in prison, you can't survive without becoming a criminal. So you have to be a criminal. Very similar situation in the USA. If you watch the movies, of course, in the movies, I do not know in reality. But in Russia, I know that this is horrendous. To be in a prison, it means to be totally destroyed psychologically and like a human being. There is no more human being. People really suffer from it. Not only that they are abused, but also they are turned into criminals. So they have these procedures to make you a crime within the prison, because then once you are doing the crime and others are witnessing it, so you are forever with them. Yeah? So you can't get out of it. And the whole system is involved in it. All those who are taking charge of these prisoners, they are part of that criminal system. They are encouraging and they are providing all that criminality within the prison. So they noticed that the best way is actually to treat them as humans and give them education. By the way, only in prison in Norway you can get a free education, higher education, anything. You can become a lawyer. You can become anybody in prison for free. Amazing. And in Holland, they complain because their prisons are empty. So they bring some other people from other countries to their prisons, otherwise they have to close them down. There is nobody in prison. So this is the new situation with criminals. Human treatment of criminals, which is interesting because it's in some way it proves this what Sri Krishna says. The one who chose, put his will, he is rightly decided towards me, who loves me. Even the worst criminal, he can be a saint. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati. And very quickly, this dharmatma, whose self is in dharma, will arrive at this shashvat shantim, at this eternal peace. O Kaunteya, pratijanihi, know this, name bhaktav pranashyati. Listen to the word of my promise, pratijanihi. My bhakta never dies, never perishes. The one who loves the divine cannot perish. Interesting, yeah? Even if his body is perishing, even if they kill him and destroy him physically, he cannot perish. And then, mam hi partha vyapashritya yepi syuh papayonayah striyah vaishyah tatha shudrah apiyanti param gatim kim punar brahmanav punyah bhaktah rajarshayah tatha anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. It's quite interesting. So here it's a little bit historical or that cultural element. As Sri Aurobindo says, so little of that cultural, historical information in the Gita, but this is the part. So those who found refuge in me, took refuge in me, O Partha, though outcasts, born from the womb of sin, women, Vaishyas and Shudras, they also attain to the highest goal. How much rather than holy Brahmins and devoted kings, king sages, Rajarshayah, thou who hast come to this transient and unhappy world, thou, who hast come, yes, thou, you who have come to this transient and unhappy world, love and turn to me. Bhajasvamam, devote yourself to me. So since you kind of fell into this unhappy and transient world, anityam, perishable world, so love me, and there is a way out. There is a way out from this mortality. Now, yes, women and Vaishyas and Shudras are mentioned, even they, outcasts and the lowest castes, and women were treated as those who didn't get education, higher education, later in the period already from the time of Krishna, from Kali Yuga time. You know that Kali Yuga starts with Kurukshetra. Yeah, we spoke about this most probably long ago. So Kali Yuga begins with Kurukshetra, with this battle. So Krishna opens up the whole Kali Yuga age. And of course, women were treated differently, as you know. Yeah? They didn't have access to the same knowledge. They didn't recite the Vedas anymore. They were there because their husbands, Brahmins, were reciting the Vedas. They spoke with them, conversed with them in Sanskrit. Brahmanas, ladies, yes, belonging to Brahmana Varna. But not Kshatriyas anymore. For example, if king was talking to his wife, queen, in Sanskrit, she was answering to him in Prakrit. It is all in the dramas. You can see this. They speak two different languages. They converse in different languages. So he speaks to her in Sanskrit, she answers in Prakrit. Prakrit is an interesting adaptation of Sanskrit to the common use. So to say, it's like a hybrid Sanskrit, as it were. Simplified to the extent that it becomes distorted. And then that distortion increases with time and creates those natural languages. Yeah? All these Indo-Aryan languages are Prakrits. They are coming from Sanskrit, from the wrong or long-term distortion of Sanskrit in a particular way. So each region of India had a particular way of distorting Sanskrit, and that created those specific languages.
So what's the reason for mentioning holy Brahmins and devoted king sages over here? Like, does he want to mean like those, even if you are those, like till you are loving?
Yes, and what to say about Brahmins then? If even outcast will come to me, what to say about Brahmins and the Raja Rishis? We don't even discuss them anymore. If they turn to me, they are totally coming to me because they prepared themselves as evolutionary beings, and they are ready to receive this knowledge, this connection with the Supreme. So even those who are not prepared, even those who are not ready, yes, let us rephrase this, yeah? Even they come to me if they choose so. So this is the meaning. It should not be offensive, because I remember doing this in Auroville, and many feminists jumped on me that women, how Krishna dares to speak about women in that derogative sense.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing to see that in such a sacred text, but I guess you have to put it in the context of history. But anyway, I was fascinated about what you said about Sanskrit and Prakrit. That's just absolutely fascinating. And I wondered if it's kind of a parallel between Latin, classical Latin,
Absolutely.
and what was called Vulgar Latin, which became Italian.
Absolutely. Italian and then French. It's interestingly, if you examine French, they're so proud of their French language. But that distortion of Latin, it was a specific distortion from the African use, which became so, because there were many Africans from there, especially in the south, and that flavor became the major flavor of French language. So it's quite interesting to think. We do not know where distortion is coming from. But in India, we know, because these people, interestingly, when they come to Sanskrit back from their own original languages, and Indians know about this, especially those from different regions, you will hear a particular accent which will tell you where they are coming from which region. Each region has a specific distortion or incapacity to be totally, fully articulated in Sanskrit also. Yeah, for example, if you are Oriya, you will have this problem with S and Sh. Yeah, there is no Sh, only S. If you are from Bengal, there will be no difference between Sh, and S, will be only Sh. So they will say, instead of Rasa, they will say Rosho. Yeah? So instead of Aravinda, they will say Orobindo. So this is the particular distortion which is becoming a part of their also diction, even in Sanskrit. Yeah? So when these people from different regions come together, you can immediately say, oh, this is from Bengal, this is from Orissa, that is from elsewhere. So these distortions are fixed in Prakrits. You can see when people speak Prakrits, these distortions become legitimate way of speaking. Interesting. They are until now the same in those regions. It seems like those people have lived there and created their languages.
So these distortions kind of makes different languages, because like how you mentioned, we have always grown up, because we grew up in Bengal, we always grew up hearing Aurobindo, like, and it was only in the northern part it was said Aravind. So, and we kind of, because in India, in different places, there is different pronunciation. So is it kind of like all of these are distortion of the original Sanskrit? Like this is how the different languages came?
In Indo-Aryan languages, yes. Indo-Aryan group, it is mainly in India. And all those languages, Prakrits. Prakrit means natural. Sanskritam means composed, perfected. Sanskritam is perfected, Prakritam is natural. Natural means that you don't pay attention. Yeah, languages develop. They don't stay. Within 200 years, they change totally. Within 600, you can't recognize the language. Yes. If you take English 600 years back, you would not understand a word. It's with Shakespeare that it was fixed to certain kind of standard, or that time. From that time on, we have an etalon to which we refer as language. But if you take Russian 400 years, you would not understand a word. So
Aurobindo doesn't mean anything actually in Sanskrit, right? It's like just a distortion, or does it also have a meaning?
Of course, yeah. Aravinda. Yeah, we spoke
No,
about.
Aurobindo, like when we say it in Bengali, like Aurobindo,
Oh,
it doesn't have,
it's beautiful. It sounds lovely. Because the short in the Bengal was O, like O, yeah?
yeah,
So instead of, it sounds like O nearly, but it is O, this closed O, which is partially Sanskrit pronunciation, yes? Like Ognim, they will say Ognimihile. Yeah. So but it's beautiful anyway, anyhow. But sometimes the distortions are too big and they have to work on it. For example, if we take Magadhi, Ardha Magadhi, this medieval period, or Braj, or Hindustani, from Magadhi and Braj, Hindustani developed. Hindustani was developed into Hindi. If you take Hindi and take Hindustani 200 years back, and then before Hindustani, you will see that word Bhavati, Sanskrit, becomes Hoti in Hindustani. 200 years back, and then this Hoti becomes He in Hindi. So from Bhavati to He over Hoti, you can trace it back, in this in the historical grammar. That's what we studied in the university. It's amazing how distortions come, because Bhavati is always at the end of the sentence. So you don't need to say Bhavati. Everybody knows that Bhavati will be there. So it became Hoti. Bhavati Hoti. And then the Hoti, you don't need to say Hoti, you say He. It's at the end. Anyhow, when you end the sentence, everybody knows that there must be that word at the end. So now we have He everywhere in Hindi, which means that in Sanskrit, Bhavati, 3 syllables became 1 syllable He. And this reductionism is taking place in all languages over time. Even now, if you take American English, I was looking at it. So if you say, you don't say anymore in American English, water. They say water. This T became water, like totally soft, because intervocal position, these consonants reduce their sharpness and disappear. Or you say 20 instead of 20. To disappeared already in 20, 30 years. 20. It's 20. So when you hear this, you're kind of surprised. Where is to? Not to. It's still written, but look at French. They write totally differently than they pronounce. Half of the letters they don't pronounce at all, but they are written there. So this is how language reduces because of laziness, because of natural way of pronouncing and being understood. You don't need to be very precise in articulation. And Sanskrit has this capacity to be very precise, to go into the flow, to adopt all the phonetic changes, but remembering the original, to come back to the original. Because of these rules of Sandhi, knowing how phonetically we change in the flow of speech to reconstruct its original meaning, this is the capacity of Sanskrit. So it is Sanskritam, perfected or well made or perfectly made. My teacher used to say that Sanskrit is somehow looks like artificial language. It's too perfect for being a proper natural language. So it looks like it didn't evolve over 6,000 years. It is the same language. All other languages changed, died, new languages were born, and Sanskrit stays unchanged. Amazing, huh? And if you take these Prakrits, for example, Maharashtri Prakrit, which is amazing in the medieval period, then they reduce in intervocal position all the consonants. So if you have word agata, Sanskrit came, agata, then g and t in between these r's will disappear, and they will write ah, 3 r's. There will be no consonants anymore. It's like 20, t disappeared in intervocal position. Soon n will disappear with the tway or something. Could be in few 50s or 100 years it will be tway. Tway will be 20. Could be, because we do not know where it goes, yeah, how it is. And it depends on the accent also, where accent falls on the which syllable and so on. Okay, that was about Prakrits. And what is interesting, when you study dramas, you will see how different people speak different languages, different Prakrits. And these different Prakrits tell you from which social upbringing you are coming, from which level of society, yeah? Because there are different Prakrits. Prakrits have the whole hierarchy of different languages. It's like working class in England speak a specific language, proletariat, yes, coming from the factories. They have their own slang, as it were. You know, these slangs, different social languages, quite amazing. So the higher you come, the more refined language becomes, and then on the top there is Sanskrit. So these Vaishya Shudras, they speak different languages. They don't speak Sanskrit. So the distribution of knowledge was in such a way that Brahmins on the top of the pyramid received the revelation, Vedas, in Sanskrit, and then they distributed to the kings, Kshatriyas, in Sanskrit still. Kings spoke Sanskrit, but their wives already spoke in Prakrit, and then Vaishyas never spoke Sanskrit. They spoke only Prakrits. There was no way that they could do it. And then finally, Shudras never knew. Even Vaishya's language was another type of language, another Prakrit. And then outcasts, even another one. So you have the whole hierarchy, linguistic hierarchy. I think it is in every society. In Russia, the same. Yeah, the higher you come, the more refined language you use. I love English, British English, especially in their films. If you listen to them, how they speak, it's amazing. They have so many metaphors, so many similes. They are always suggesting in such a refined way that you can enjoy it, you can enjoy the level of consciousness in the language. In American, it's a little brutal, down to earth, more practical. In British English, it's just amazing. I can laugh there from nothing, from just ordinary conversation. So language means a lot. Okay, we can go forward. And this is the amazing also shloka. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mam evaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam matparayanah. This is long ago I was learning by heart for myself. Manmana, establish your mind upon me, become my minded. So beautiful, Shribendupas. My lover and adorer, Madbhaktah, a sacrificer to me, Madhyaji, Mam Namaskuru, bow thyself to me. Thus united with me, Mam Evaishyasi Yuktvaivam, thus Yuktvaivam, united with me, in the self, Atmanam. Thou shalt come to me, Mam Evaishyasi. Mam Eva Eshyasi, if I split 3 words. You see, this is also a very interesting feature of Sanskrit. They combine words. There is a phonetic change, sandhis, but they know how to deconstruct, how to disconnect them. They know there. So in the flow it will change, but then they remember the original word. That's why it was never lost. Because this particular skill of knowing how it is changing in the flow of speech and deconstructing it, coming back to the origin. So mam eva eshyasi become mame mam evaishyasi. Eva eshyasi, a plus e gives I. Mam evaishyasi, evaishyasi, aeshyasi becomes aeshyasi. So they are not afraid to write it I here, because they know that they are able to come back to the original. But in Prakrit, once this appears Mamevaishyasi, it will stay Aishyasi. Nobody will go back to the original. Yeah? So that's how slowly they drifted and changed. So it's just an example. I wanted to give the phonetic example. It's not a proper example for change, but still a phonetic change. Mam parayanach, mat parayanach, having me as your supreme goal. So you will come to me, united yourself with myself, or yourself with me, making me a supreme goal. You bow to me, sacrifice to me, love me, establish, be my-minded, think of me only and of nobody else. It's quite interesting that there was the whole period in my life where I couldn't think of anything else but the divine. It was like maybe 3.5 years. It was like, I was totally into this thinking. Nothing was satisfying. Nothing was meaningful. But that was the beginning of my path. Yeah? I discovered the connection, and I thought the more I think about it, the more it is present. It is kind of interesting because the kind of bliss and peace comes with thinking about it, about the divine. And it is totally true. Become my-minded. Yeah? Don't let your mind travel elsewhere. Don't engage with other topics. Fix your mind upon me. Everything else will be resolved. Anyhow, nature works anyhow, and nature will make everything work. You have to dedicate your inner being to me, and nature will do the rest. These are Mahavakyas of the Gita. There are footnotes here, some footnotes. Yes, Sri Aurobindo gives this explanation on this Vaishyas and Shudras. Let us read, because this is something which we have to understand better. This is on they also, so Vaishyas, so even women, Vaishyas and Shudras, they also attain to the highest goal. And there is a footnote. Previous effort and preparation. This is exactly what we were talking. I already see it. Yeah? The purity and the holiness of the Brahmin, the enlightened strength of the king sage, great in works and knowledge, have their value, because they make it easier for the imperfect human creature to arrive at this wide vision and self-surrender. But even without this preparation, all who take refuge in the divine lover of man, the Vaishya, once preoccupied with the narrowness of wealth getting and the labor of production, the Shudra, hampered by 1,000 hard restrictions, women shut in and stunned in her growth. Woman shut in and stunned in her growth by the narrow circle society has drawn around her self-expansion. Those two Papa Yonayach. Papa Yonayach is a misprint here. And those who are born in the sinful surroundings or families, let us put it, on whom their past karma has imposed even the very worst of births, the outcast, pariah, the chandala. Find at once the gates of God opening before them. In the spiritual life, all the external distinctions of which men make so much because they appeal with an oppressive force to the outward mind, cease before the equality of the divine light and the wide omnipotence of an impartial power. So it can erase and efface all the conditionings we are put as souls into. Because our instruments may not be ready, like our mind, our vital, and our physical, but our soul is there. So the divine kind of has this attitude or this relation with the soul. And so it is all changed with that relation. The doors are opening and the person can very quickly change their mind, their vital. A very rapid evolution can take place because of that. And within one lifetime, one can do much more than in many lifetimes without this contact. Yeah? So instrument becomes ready. I saw these changes in Auroville. I was always wondering, how is that possible? The person came totally unprepared in every way. So, and then within few years, it became a different being. And those who came prepared, seemingly prepared and ready and knowing a lot, lost all the contact and left Auroville and are not interested anymore in any spiritual path. I was always wondering, what is this magic? I think that touch, that opening of the doors, and if the soul chooses to go that way, so it can prepare itself rapidly. Yeah, so if you have some thoughts, you please share. We are at the end. This is the end of the chapter, actually.
About the transformation of personality, I guess, at least experiencing that so many people can seem so different, even though they may seem unprepared in the context of Auroville, that they can really change. I think it's just so extraordinary, the role of the grace and openness. I know that, for example, on the supramental ship, there was that cook of Sri Aurobindo's Mridu, who people seemed to be somewhat amused by, and she was there. She was there. She was participating. So we can never know about other people's openness and where they are with the journey. But it's really wonderful that once you really start, you there's no turning back. Once you're really caught by this yoga, you really have to go through to the end. Maybe it takes lifetimes, but there you are.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what Krishna says in the Gita also, that when he asks him, what about those who lost their path? Yoga Bharashtas, yes, what will happen to them? Krishna says that they will be born in the next life in the better families, in the yogis' families, and will continue their journey. Nothing is in vain. These efforts are not in vain efforts to realize the divine. once there was a glimpse, a connection, that connection can't be totally lost. It can be veiled. We can even kind of seemingly deviate from the path, seemingly. Yeah? There is a beautiful work, Siddhartha, maybe some of you know, Hermann Hesse. And Siddhartha was one of those who, and he was very close to the realization, and then he went into ordinary life. And he became more and more and more overloaded with ordinary relations. And then one day at the end of his life, he broke through. Yeah? That inner being was waiting. He needed to acquire more elements of this world, of this knowledge, in order to overcome it. So it's never a straight path. It's not so easy to judge anybody's path. Yeah? We do not know what is happening to the people when they go through it. Sangeet is writing. If Sangeet you want to say, so please say it. You just wait sure.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem.
So, you were talking about how some Aurovilians leave. It could be, the adverse forces messing them up, right? It's a complex play of forces, and they want to delay as much progress that sadhaks make. So
Definitely.
I don't know.
There are so many reasons why this or that happened. Look at me. I was actually kicked out from India because I worked in our university without knowing that it was not allowed with my visa for Auroville to work there. I thought I will bring higher education to Auroville, Aurovillians to our university. Our university is such a great thing to do, Sanskrit, Sri Aurobindo for India, all that. And yes, and then my visa was cancelled. And look where I am now. So I'm given a new project, a big project where everything, all that what I wanted to exercise and never could in Auroville, because Auroville is resisting this knowledge most. They don't want anything of this kind. It's too mental for them. They want to live without it, as it were. So now Mother found for me a place where that what I wanted to be and to do is welcome. It's amazing. And I'm still connected to Auroville. I'm still Aurovillian. I have my home there, my daughter, my sister, my nephew. Everybody lives there. All my life is there. This is my home. Auroville is my home. Yeah? But I have to do the work which I was kind of preparing to do all my life, and I would love to do it and to make it also for Auroville. And I hope Auroville will grow and will be interested in this knowledge at the end. We all hope that there will be a university in Auroville. One day it will be, definitely. But it's another stage of development. This stage is over, the first stage. The second stage, third stage. In these stages, there will be new forces coming.
Sorry, the other question I had was I missed what Martha said. So Sri Aurobindo's cook went to the subtle physical ashram that I guess there's a subtle physical ashram in Sri Aurobindo of the ashram is in the subtle physical, right? And people thought she's just a simpleton, but she's so. I guess Mother said she's there with Sri Aurobindo.
It was the story of the supramental ship that Mother tells, I think, in the agenda. Sri Aurobindo's cook Mridu was something of a plump little lady and not regarded as very sophisticated, and or perhaps even versed in the yoga. I don't really know, but in any case, she was there on the supramental ship as those people, among those several people who were really open to the supramental force. That's my understanding of it. Vladimir, you may want to share something else.
I think it is grace. Yes, it's basically grace of Sri Aurobindo. He could do this. Yeah, he could grant you a completely different status and position and opening of the soul. Mother also could do it, and she did to many people. Yeah. So this is something which we can't expect from ourselves. It is just the gift of the divine.
Isn't it also true? It's not the profession, right? It's how you are that's more important. You could be a sweeper in the ashram,
Yeah.
who will be more advanced than a doctor in the ashram. And
Yeah, with whom you are, or with whom. Yeah,
yes.
She was the cook of Sri Aurobindo. It's not a joke. Yeah, to cook for Sri Aurobindo. Just imagine that. What force, what grace is there already just to cook for him. And with that grace, everything else came, all the forces, all the illumining powers, all the peace, bliss, everything, because she was preparing food for the Lord himself. So for him to get this earthly food, which, I can't imagine such a bliss. It is a blessed soul to be cooking for Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
And he had to eat that food. Yeah, it's such a prasad, constant. There was another cook story in ashram, by the way. There was one cook who was not good. You remember, yeah? The story in agenda. There was a discussion about this, what to do with that. A mother complained to Sri Aurobindo even. There is a discussion there. Mother mentions this. And he told her that, it was between her and someone disciple. I don't remember, maybe Satprem. He told her that we should not deal with them in this rejective manner. Yes? Or, because even if they are hostile, because there was a hostility of some kind, something was, I don't remember the details, unfortunately, but I remember this, that mother said, what shall we do? Or it was in another occasion, maybe I'm mixing up, but with cook there was something.
About throwing the stones?
Yeah, with the stones, one story, and with the cook, yes.
The cook was kind of, I think somebody had scolded the cook or something like that, and therefore the cook got very angry and
Right.
used someone to use some black magic, and therefore the stones started falling. And then later on, when Mother and Sri Aurobindo walked with that and made the stones stop falling, the cook was attacked and became very ill. And I think his son or child or daughter came and they said, and then Sri Aurobindo very compassionately replied, "Oh, only for a few stones," and then the cook got cured.
Yes, it is the story in an agenda. It's interesting. Cook was nearly destroyed that magician was nearly killed for this. Yes, he didn't know with whom he dealt, and then Sri Aurobindo's compassion told him that only for few stones such as suffering, so it stopped and he got cured. Amazing. Yes, there was another question. I mixed up two stories. Someone was very hostile, and they not hostile, behaved strangely, and was drinking and becoming drunk and all that, and he was talking dirty language, and so they complained to the mother, and she said, we have to address that force behind him, yes, fight that force, not him, because you want me to banish him from the ashram, that force will come to you then and will trouble you. Are you ready for this? So this is something to hate the sinner, the same story. Yes. We don't hate the sinner because we know there is a force behind which makes him a sinner. That's what we have to address and deal with. This is an amazing spiritual attitude. Yeah? Instead of kind of blaming the person, we blame the force which is making person in that way. I also looked, I watched the court for these war criminals in Ukraine who killed people for nothing. These are small boys, you know, like 18 and 19 years old. Children, they are children. They don't know what to say, they have no voice, nothing. And I know that they were possessed in that moment. Fear, this, that, you know, adharmic forces, when they come, they tempt you to become something greater than you are, something stronger, because only cowards can do this. Cowards, you know, not really courageous people. Courageous people don't kill innocent people.
Just a question, isn't it true whenever you do something wrong, it's always you're an instrument of the anti-divine forces, indirectly or directly anyway, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. You're possessed, you're not aware, you are tempted with the delight that a anti-divine force is offering you. It offers you some kind of adharmic delight. You know, in adharma there is a certain divine delight. I will tell you what it is, what I think it is. It is this it is that everything is like a performance or like a drama, yes? Like children playing in war. When we were small children, we are always shooting, running, killing each other, yes? We were playing all the time wars. You know this. You played also, most probably. I do not know. Maybe only in Russia they play this. In Soviet Union, the war, children. But we were all the time, I had so many weapons. I had all kinds of things. I loved bows and I was shooting them, and I had lassos and all that, pistols, rifles. I wanted to have all kinds of weapons. Children, boys, you know, they like to play. There is a delight in playing it. Yeah, it's like delight in hunting, delight in, and not so much in killing, because that is ugly part, but delight in this excitement in adventure and unexpected turns and thrill of this adrenaline is coming, and fear. So all of that plays, it's a kind of attractive proposition to adharmic action in a way. And then you need some idealism of some, you know, like Russians created. They want to help Ukraine, to liberate Ukraine from fascists. And with that ideal is enough, with that thrill and this ideal, for these youngsters to be possessed by these forces. They open up the mind, they don't question in the mind anymore, and this vital force enters. And he is a victim. He is totally a victim. He is not anybody else. He needs help, that boy. But now they will put him into prison forever. So, no way out. So we are all victims of these forces, yeah. This is an important maybe topic for our discussion with Kimberly. Kimberly invited me to this group of those who are helping Ukraine. Very nice group of people, yeah, coming together, discussing how to help. So we have to see this, because there's so much hate and so much pain through that hate, also through those forces entering into you. You start hating just innocent people, yeah, who are possessed, hating the sinner, so to say.
It becomes a philosophical question. You're still responsible for your actions because you were the instruments. Otherwise, everyone could do anything they wanted and get away with it.
Oh, definitely. You have to fight it. Yes, you have to shoot back. Yes, you have to protect your motherland and so on. You have to do it. But as Sri Krishna says in the Gita, do it with surrendering to me, to the divine. Yes, do it with love to the divine. with understanding. You don't need to kill the innocent people or people without weapons who cannot protect themselves. You do not to torture others who cannot protect. I never could understand how people can cause pain to those who cannot protect themselves. What's this about? Why do you cause the pain to the person who is totally unprotected? Yeah, and even more, tie it up and beat the. How is that possible? What is the purpose in all this? There is no meaning in it. Yeah. So there are some vital forces which demand that exactly, that adrenaline blast in you, you know, some kind of that everything is allowed, and that force comes, and the mind opens the door with some idealism, false idealism or lies, and then you are possessed. Horrible. We need to step out from this. I hope we will. That humanity will grow finally and will understand. Even now it is unthinkable to the world. How can someone come and attack another people because of some idea? I think that you should be this, and I come and kill you for that. Unbelievable. So we are stepping out of that ancient kind of paradigm, mental structure of consciousness into a subjective age. Everybody feels and understands that it is not permissible, it cannot be tolerated, and I'm so glad to see that the whole world is coming together. Of course, the world is not totally ready, but it is being prepared through this action, through this war, more and more. And we have to become aware of it and help the world to understand what is going on. I mean that we are meant for the higher way of living, more noble way of relations. Even I think even the whole business paradigm and economic paradigm will change with this. Relations between people, so it will become more and more human-oriented society rather than market-oriented society. There is already this question whether to buy oil and gas, even, the war is going on. So there is this dilemma in Europe. Germany is in that dilemma. Hungary, they struggle. They need the oil and gas, cheap oil and gas. And at the same time, what happens then? So, and you can see how it is going on, like this. Yes, Fireflies is, I think it is a program which is making afterwards the notes of the, if we want to have it written down, so it will make all the notes. It's just the Firefly. You can sign for it, and we signed with our La Grace, and in case something was interesting and we want to have it written down, so it will give you a script at the end of all that what we are talking here. It's very useful sometimes for some presentations. So somebody asked, what are these fireflies? It's just AI, artificial intelligence, I think, listening to us carefully. All right, so we can stop here at 7 o'clock. So we finished chapter 9 and we are moving into chapter 10, chapter of Vibhutis. We will trace the presence of the divine in nature, in all forms of nature. Okay, I close with mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu ma kaschit dukkhavag bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.